So let's talk about the Houpelande now. The Houpelande is an A-line garment or a triangle-shaped garment of varying length. There are three common lengths for houpelandes during the time period that they existed in. So again, as I've mentioned, the late middle 14th century all the way through the early middle 15th century. The three primary lengths are incredibly short, which, like right at the upper thigh, barely covering your bits. And those are called Heinzelens. And the reason that they were called Heinzelens is that they were named after the fool of the French king who wore incredibly short houpelandes, and his name was Heinzelin Coke. And these garments later they became known as Hanselins, and you see that up and down the written record. And these are the very short A-line houpelandes. The next houppelande type is the Houppelande bastard, or the bastard houppelande, which is generally around knee length-ish to upper calf. Also A-line in its shape and structure, and typically is worn by a bit older. The shorter houpelandes definitely were worn by younger people, and as you aged in your status as a noble or royal or someone of extreme wealth increased, the length of your houppelande also increased as well. And so that leads us to the third type, which is the Houppelande Grand, or the Grand Houppelande, which these are the ones that reach the floor, often even have trains. And they're very, very similar from male to female in design. And there are even examples from contemporary religious critics lamenting the fact that from the back you can't tell a man or a woman when they're in their houpelandes, because the garments have become almost ubiquitous, regardless of gender. And and they talk about the fact that they're dragging in the streets, with these big sleeves, and really criticizing the extravagance of houpelandes. And so that really is the three types of houpelandes. Now, within those three types of houpelandes, there are types of sleeves. And there are four primary types of sleeves that exist within sort of the realm, or the canon, if you will, of houpelandes. And the first one is the most common type of sleeve, which is your standard sleeve, right? It is the sleeve that we see on the Prague Houpelande. It's just your basic sleeve type. A straight sleeve with a sleeve cap. And again, this is the time period where, we start seeing tailoring starting to happen as we move away from rectangular construction, and we start seeing things, tailoring, sleeve caps, to the arm's eye, and moving away from gussets and to more fitted garments. We start seeing these in the pourpoints, and in the early 14th century, the mid 14th century, we're seeing these garments that are moving away from rectangular construction, but often the outer garments, the big voluminous ones, are still deeply rooted in their rectangular construction roots. And when we talk about the sleeves of these garments, as again, we have the standard sleeve, which is the most common early on. Then we begin seeing I think the most iconic sleeve type that we associate with houppelande, and that is called the Houppelande sleeve. We call it the angel wing sleeve, but the actual period name for it was the Houppelande sleeve, or the cannon sleeve, because the wide opening of the sleeve reminded folks of a cannon opening. But these are the long hanging sleeves that are open, that show the lining, and that's the ones that we associate most commonly with houppelandes. The third type of sleeve is the bag sleeve, or the poke sleeve, as it was known in period. This is also a fairly common sleeve, especially as we move into the 15th century with houppelandes. You see it almost interchangeably as common as you do with the Houppelande sleeve. And then the final sleeve is the hanging sleeve, or the pendulum sleeve. And these are sleeves that are straight sleeves. They hang straight down, often completely open, top to bottom, so that the sleeves of the undergarment, typically the pourpoint, are completely visible. And they are the least common that you see in the visual in the written record. But those are the 4 types of sleeves that you typically see on a houppelande, and the 3 types of houppelandes that actually existed within the written record, which consists of tailor's notes, wardrobe accounts, purchasing receipts, etc. So that is a little bit of an overview of what a houppelande is, and a bit of the context around the types of houppelande that existed, the Heinzelin, the Bastard, and the Grand, as well as the 4 major sleeve types, which are the standard sleeve. There's not really a special name for them, it's just your standard straight sleeve, your Houppelande sleeve, your poke sleeve, and your pendulum sleeve. So I hope that this has been informative to help you understand a little bit about what the houppelande is, and we're going to get into how they're constructed and how I constructed my houppelande based off of extant garments and the written record. So I hope this has been informative, and I hope you enjoy the future conversations that we have on this topic.